Yo guys, welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all doing well. In this video, I'm going to run through 10 gym phrases that you might have come across. And I'm going to explain what each of them means, and if you haven't already implemented some of them into your training, how it can benefit you. So let's get into it. Okay, so phrase one is sets and reps. Let's start with reps. So a rep is a single execution of an exercise. So for example, if you were doing bench press, doing one bench press is one rep or one repetition. So for example, you might be doing 10 reps or 8 reps. So yeah, one movement of the exercise is one rep. Then that leads us into sets. So a set is a group of repetitions. So for example, you might be doing 10 reps 3 times. So that 3 times is your 3 sets. So we're going to do 3 sets of 10 reps. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, phrase 2 is DOMS. DOMS stands for delayed onset muscle soreness. This is very common with beginners in the gym. They're using muscles they haven't used before, they're lifting weights that they haven't lifted before, so their muscle, whatever muscle group they're training, may ache for a few days after. After sort of several weeks, their body will adapt to this. However, even if you're on a program and you're increasing weight each week, if your body's not used to that weight, DOMS may kick in. And even if you're mixing your training up, doing different exercises you haven't done before, or training in a different way, this can also cause delayed onset muscle soreness as well, because your body's just not used to it. Okay, phrase 3 is bulking. Bulking is when you focus on your diet towards gaining muscle mass. So an increase in calories to gain size. So for example, if you wanted to build more muscle, you physically have to give yourself food to enable that growth. Typically, when you're on a bulk, you may probably get stronger in the gym as well. You've got more fuel in your body, and because you're eating more, your muscles are growing. Phrase 4 is the opposite of bulking, which is cutting. Cutting is when you are dieting down to lose body fat, etc. This is obviously very common in like bodybuilding and stuff. Bodybuilders will typically go through cycles of bulking to gain a lot of muscle, and then they'll go through a cutting phase before a competition, for example, or something like that. This typically looks like restricting calories, maybe adding some cardio into their workouts and stuff, just to burn a few more calories and to lose additional body fat. Okay, phrase 5 is drop sets. So a drop set can help maximize hypertrophy and muscle growth. So for example, a drop set is if you're doing a bicep curl with say 10 kilograms, you'll do 10 reps of bicep curls, and then straight after that, you can't do any more. For example, you would then drop the weight to 5 kilograms and continue the exact same exercise straight after. So this allows you to do more repetitions. It's at a slightly lower weight, but you're completely exhausting the muscle that you're training and forcing it to grow to enable this stress on the muscle. Okay, the next 2 kind of go together, but we'll start with the first one, which is the concentric movement. So again, we'll just use bicep curl as an example. Every movement in the gym has essentially 2 phases of it. The first phase is the concentric movement, which is the lifting of the weight. So the concentric of a bicep curl is pulling it up. The concentric of a bench press is pressing the bar away from you. And yeah, that's the most common thing in the gym that people know, is to lift the weight of whatever they're doing. The opposite of that is the eccentric movement, which is the drop-in of the weight. So the bicep curl, the concentric is pulling it up, the eccentric is letting it fall down. Same with the barbell press, press. The concentric is pressing it away from you. The eccentric is bringing it back down. A common mistake in weightlifting is to not focus on the eccentric movement. So, for example, with the bicep curl, the concentric pulling it up, for the eccentric coming down, a lot of people would just drop them and then pull it back up and just drop it again. There's actually some scientific studies to show that muscle growth can be activated from the eccentric movement. So definitely don't neglect the eccentric movement. A lot of times in my training, especially with movements like pull-ups, etc., if I've done 10 pull-ups or whatever and I physically can't pull myself up anymore, I'll focus on the eccentric. So I'll jump to the top, hold myself up, and I'll slowly release myself down on the eccentric just to get a little bit more out of the muscle that I'm working. Okay, the next phrase is macros. Macros is short for macronutrients. This covers protein, carbohydrates and fats in your diet. So for example, if a PT or if you write your own meal plan, for example, that you want to follow for your specific training, those three things will be super important to make sure you're hitting your protein intake for the day, your carbohydrate intake for the day, and your fat intake for the day. The next phrase is a spotter. A spotter is somebody that assists you in the gym and makes sure you're safe doing a certain exercise. If you're training really hard one day, you're going to failure, they're going to be there to essentially look after you. So for example, if you're bench pressing and you get into the point where you're starting to fail with the weight, they will be stood over the top of you, assisting you lifting the bar up and stopping you getting stuck under the bar basically. It can also be super helpful for certain exercises, particularly bench press again, if you're unracking the bar. So you don't want to put too much stress on your shoulders when you're doing this, especially if you've started putting quite a bit of heavy weight on. So when the bars are, racked up and you're about to just unrack it, ready to start benching, they may assist you getting it off, and then they're just there for safety in case you need them. It's super, super important to make sure you and your spotter are on the same page with how you want to be spotted. Certain people, only want to be spotted at the absolute last minute. Other people want to be spotted for the last 5 reps just to get as much out of the muscle that they're working as possible. So yeah, just make sure you communicate that with the spotter before you start asking them to spot you. Okay, and then the last phrase is superset. So this is a certain training technique that you can use when you're training, especially just to mix it up. Especially if you're a bit more experienced in the gym as well, it's a great way of shocking the muscles to help them to stimulate them to grow and to just respond to what you're doing. But basically a superset is when you do a certain exercise and then immediately after that you do a different exercise. So for example, you may do a bench press and then you may go straight into like a pull-up, or you may do a superset on the same muscle group. So for example, you might bench and then you might go straight into like a dumbbell fly, for example. Again, really stimulates the muscle, it gets the blood flowing as well, and yeah, it's just a different way of training. But again, going back to the first point, that may introduce some DOMs if you're not used to doing it. But yeah, they're 10 phrases that you may hear in the gym. Hopefully I've given you a bit of information about each one now so that you understand them all a little bit better, and maybe there's some in there that you haven't implemented into your training yet that could benefit you. Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching guys, don't forget to like and subscribe.